Greetings, everyone. Hope everyone's well. My name is Duncan Lloyd with the DML Limited Agency. I'm here with our partner and agent in San Sebastian, Spain, Mike Carlson. Mike enjoyed a very long and very prosperous career as a pro player. And what we want to do today is ask him a few questions about his transition from being a Division II All-American and a very decorated collegiate player here in the States, and then what that transition was like in terms of being a pro player, not just on the court in Europe, but all the off the court kind of details as well. So, Mike, if you could tell us a little bit about your playing background here in the States at the NCAA level, and then also kind of what that spring and summer and fall of your first kind of transition year between the States and Europe was like.
Yeah, okay. So my college experience, it started very slow. Wasn't getting a lot of playing time. Worked my way up until as a senior. I was starting on a very good team and ended up being an All American that year. Now, playing professionally before that point, of course, it's in the back of your mind, but for me, it was never a reality until I got on that list. And I started getting agents hitting me out of nowhere from, gosh, all corners of the world, really trying to say, hey, come play professionally. I know XYZ. I know this guy. I know that guy. And Duncan, you know this story very well. I had an offer to play in Australia. I didn't have an agent at the time. I said, Mr. Lloyd, what's going on with these guys in Australia? You, without being under contract, as you have done consistently for the past decade we've worked together, you reached out, you got some more information, you got back to me very, very quickly about what the situation was, the pros, the cons. This is an opportunity, and I believe we're still in touch with Peter Pollock to some extent.
Hell of a guy, Pete Pollock, great guy.
Yeah, and a month later, less than a month, I signed you as my agent because you were the only one who actually took that seriously, who reached out, who went the extra mile to make sure I was taken care of. And I spent the summer right after college playing basketball in Australia, which was a pretty cool experience.
We're going to have a Duncan Lloyd fluff piece some other time about all the incredible things that I do. But tell us more about playing in Australia that first summer in the NBL one, and then also the differences and similarities between NCAA and the NBL one, and then also the NBL one and Leb Gold, your first European league in Spain after the NBL season wrapped up.
So very important to note that in Australia, there it was like a summer league for them. It was their off season. They send a lot of guys from the NBL, the younger guys, to play in that league. They bring in American imports like myself. We get, in essence, a trial run of how it goes. So it's not. I wouldn't label that brand of basketball the most strict, the highest level, but it's a great opportunity to play. Taught a lot of camps. That summer was working all the time, working out, and just getting into that mindset of being a professional basketball player. Like, this is my job. I'm making money playing, a part of this new community that I've never been a part of before. I got to meet a bunch of new guys, a bunch of new teammates I've never played with. And here we go. And we're hooping every weekend. I think I showed up. I remember this actually very vividly. I showed up. I was exhausted. We went right to practice. That flight to Australia is no joke. And I think we played a game like 48 hours later.
What are the primary differences that you experienced in terms of your day to day as a student athlete
Hmm.
at Truman State versus playing in Australia and then also playing in Spain? Just how does your day to day break down differently between being a student athlete and a pro athlete?
You have less structure. You don't have as many people in your ear telling you what to do and how to go about your business. They expect you to show up and do a job. And really it's like all those habits that you create, having success at the college level, transfer directly. But the difference is in my experience, the culture there in the university is everyone shows up early, everyone is ready to go, stretching beforehand, getting shots up. And then when it comes to the professional level, some guys do that, but on the other hand, some guys will show up 15 minutes before practice, slap their shoes on, and off we go. And so you got to hold yourself to a higher standard. You got to hold yourself to the discipline of, hey, I got to practice. I got to make sure I eat right. I got to make sure I get my sleep. Got to make sure I stretch. Whatever routine that you have, you need to hold yourself accountable to that, which sounds like a lot, but at the same time, Duncan, and you know this, to have success at the NCAA level, you have to have those habits already established. It's just more of making sure you hold yourself to that standard, because your coaches, GMs, they expect you to perform. The thing that they're looking at is your performance. So you need to hold yourself with those habits, that accountability, to be able to perform week in and week out throughout a twice as long season as we have in the States, which is a mental and also a physical challenge.
What are some specific pieces of advice you can give aspiring pro players that will put you in a good light with a pro team and a pro coach and a pro front office, and then two or three things that will annoy and put you in the doghouse of, pro coaches and, pro GMs and pro front offices? Can you give the aspiring players some specific tips about how to be successful, and then also some easy things to avoid so you stay right on track in your first or second job as a pro?
This isn't necessarily in front of the team or all that, but like your diet and your sleep. As a pro, you're going to be in a different country. Everything in the supermarket is going to be a little bit different than what we're used to back home. Some of the food is going to be different, all that stuff. And you got to find out the stuff that you like, the stuff that's healthy for you. It doesn't matter if you eat the same thing every day, which sounds boring, but if it gets the fuel that your body needs, do it. Another thing too, invest in your bedroom. Whether it's a pillow, whether it's a whatever you need to sleep well at night, invest in it. The team will provide you with the basic necessities, but take that extra step to make sure you're eating right and you're sleeping right, because no protocol of stretching or any of that will do the same for your body as a good meal and a good night's sleep. And that is something you have to fundamentally get down and be very peculiar about. The next thing, I think, obviously, all the soft skills that help you with any job that you're stepping into in the professional world, showing up early, being on time, being prepared, all that stuff. There's no one's going to pat you on the back and say, "Hey, good job. I noticed you showed up early today." No, but that's going to help you in the long term. It just looks good, and you're ready to go. The other thing that I've learned over time that GMs and coaches really like is you to be aggressive. If you come in there and be like, I'm gonna fit in and I'm gonna kind of find my way into this team, that's not really why they're paying you to come in there. No, you can be a bit of a dog. They want to see that. They want to see your competitive side. They want to see your competitive instincts take over. They want to see you win games in practice. They want to see that. And obviously, with that comes the very fine line of you causing problems for your teammates. But at this point, if you're playing at the professional level, you have enough experience under your belt, you have the personality to manage both sides of that. Be competitive when practice is going on. Don't cross the line in any sort of way. And then once practice is over, you're high-fiving and you're slapping everybody and you're talking smack or doing locker room stuff. That is something that took me a while to learn, but they really respect that competitive nature if they can see that from you pretty consistently.
That's good. And then other side of the coin, what are some things to avoid? What are kind of low-hanging fruit in terms of annoying a coach or annoying a front office or a fan base? How can you help aspiring players avoid some of those situations?
Once again, to speak on the soft skills, show up on time. If you show up late, you're going to get a red mark. If you show up with low energy at morning practices, no one's going to really want to deal with you. And the way that it happens over here, nobody's going to get on you. No one's going to yell at you, but they're going to ignore you. They're not going to tell you. And then some time will go by, and here comes another guy to replace you. And it's just kind of like, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to ask. A lot of times, too, I see talented young players come over here, and it's their first time introduced to European ball screen concepts or whatever you want to put the specific basketball thing in there. And the coaches, it's such a routine thing for them. They haven't taught it to somebody like it's their first time seeing it. So if you have a question, ask. If you have a doubt, speak up. If you don't understand something, maybe go ask the coach after practice. Go over some film with the assistant coach. Be like, hey, I don't really understand what we're trying to do when we rotate or whatever it's going to be, because there's going to be new things in the system that are new for you, and you're more than likely coming from a system that you've played in for several years. And the quicker that you can pick up the new system, the better off it will benefit in the long run. So don't be afraid to ask questions. If you just stay silent and be like, "No, I'm going to figure this out. I can do all this." It's a risk you're running.
All of that I think is great advice. And for everyone listening and watching, this is coming from Mike Carlson, who played professionally for 9 years, and his career took him from the Division 3 level at the NCAA level, all the way to the ACB in Spain, which is probably the best domestic league in the entire world, outside of the NBA here in the States. Mike was able to climb that ladder because of the examples that he gave today, and for other reasons as well. But in that way, know that these pieces of advice are coming from someone who really has climbed the mountain as a pro. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll come back to you next week with a little bit more insight on the professional game.